Have you ever thought about getting into corporate rentals? Do you even know what that means? Some people have different definitions. I define it as your business, your rental company doing business with another company that needs your furnished rental for their employees or for their sponsor. So let's talk about that. I want to show you how I came to that conclusion that that's how I wanted to operate, and I do kind of a hybrid of that. And let's talk about that. But before I do, I want to talk to you about what inspired me. Back in 2014, I was working as a civil engineer. My wife was working, and she's like, hey, let's have a vacation. And I was like, well, we can't afford a vacation. She said, how come we can't afford a vacation? We have all these rental properties. We should be living nicely. And I said, we can't because we have all these rental properties. They're taking up our money. And I was so frustrated with that. That answer was not sufficient. So I did years of research, and I compiled the information into this book called 40 Ways to Increase the Net Income of Your Rental Property. And out of that came the understanding that I can change how I operated the rental property was one of the most cost-effective things I could do. So I started this journey of trying different ways and different modes of operation. Of course, we started with leaving it empty, and we know you lose money when you have a vacancy, but still, that's better than having a problem person in your unit. I learned that. And then I operated as a traditional landlord for years, and that has a low profit margin. It's roughly $100 to $200 per month per door before taxes. That's across the country. People will agree on that in 2023. After that, I operate as a furnished rental, and the tenant there would pay for their own utilities, and you can get about 30% more, so roughly $130 per month per door. So that was my plan. That's called the plan D for me. And then plan C is to flex these terms. So you could do Airbnb, it's a flexible length of stay. You can flex it with the type of dogs you have, or if you are in the middle of the country, you could when you have stables and horses, you can rent spots and your bunkhouses and your barn out as well. So there's all kinds of ways of fluctuating your terms and adding these different amenities to make yourself more unique. That's cool. If you do that, you can expect roughly a 300 to 500% more increase per month. So if you're assuming that landlords make $100 per month, that means you're making between $300 and $500 per month. Now this is net income, because that's all we talk about here is net income. The advance up from there would be room rentals. In some configurations, you can make more by renting out the rooms than you could the whole place. It's just a lot more management intensive, but if you're willing to do that, you definitely can take a regular looking place and make it into a nice cash flowing place. Now, I started with that, but that was a very management intensive. It wasn't my jam, so I let that one go and moved on to corporate rentals, which is doing business directly with another business. So even though some employees are reimbursed, that is kind of a pseudo corporate housing. It still counts. I'll still take it, and that's what I like to do. But if I can get a construction crew in that line, or an insurance company, or a working professional that's sponsored by ALE or a different provider, then I'll definitely do that. You can definitely make more money that way. But those types of really lucrative business-to-business opportunities don't come on all the time. It's going to leave you with gaps. So that's why I like this pseudo corporate housing, where you're doing business with an employee who's getting reimbursed from their employer. And I like just to make a steady profit margin every month and keep going. That's my thing. Now, I call that my plan A, corporate housing, the things that you hear about that has all the high profit margins. That definitely is something that I want. But if I can't do that, then I fall back onto the pseudo corporate housing, which I can stay afloat with all the time. Those types of travelers and opportunities are always available. So I like that a lot. Now, if I can't do that, working directly with a company with a lease agreement, then falling back on VRBO and Airbnb is great too, where you're working with their guests. So that's very lucrative as well. but there's a lot of competition in there too. And if you can't do that, you can fall back onto long-term furnished. So there's a spot. You don't have to go completely vacant. You can downshift down into long-term furnished. And if you can't do that, then you can roll back down to being a regular landlord. And if you can't do that, then you can leave it vacant. Now, that's why I say landlording is the least profitable, most risky thing you can do. I think it's a dangerous spot to do because there's so much competition and such skinny profit margins. That's why I don't prefer to do it. And that's why I was cash strapped. That's why I had to not be able to take my wife on vacation. So moving away from that has made a big difference with the exact same properties, just changing how you operate, operating with more skill, more marketing chops, and more relationship driven. It's less adversarial and more collaborative, and that's why the profit margins are larger. You're accommodating people. But until then, what I want you to do